Vince McMahon is the beginning and the end when it comes to WWE. It's been said on many of an occasion how important it is to have a relationship with the boss should you want to thrive in his company, and that just makes sense. The more of his ear you have, the more likely to succeed you are. No point having all these thoughts and ideas on a piece of paper if no one's going to read them. Even though there's no determining in what direction your career may go, the brain of McMahon is clearly quite something, and even the smallest decision can make him raise an eyebrow before questioning what the hell the performer was thinking. Again though, he knows what he wants, and you'd be hard pushed to say he hasn't made that work. He most definitely has. I'm Simon from WhatCulture, and this is 12 wrestlers who did unusual things Vince McMahon hated. Number 12, Paul London. Clearly Vince McMahon has never heard the pepperly positive platitude, "Smile, you'll live longer," or he has, and it annoys him just as much as the rest of the universe, maybe even more it seems. Paul London was unceremoniously given his marching orders by the chairman after flashing his pearly whites to the world during the 3rd June 2007 episode of Monday Night Raw. There was slightly more to this than an irrational hatred of happiness. London's sparkly smile came during the angle, which saw Vince McMahon explode to death in his limousine. As the boss morosely made his way to his ill-fated vehicle through a corridor of collected superstars, each of them suitably somber ahead of the occasion, London stuck out like a sore thumb or a Cheshire cat grinning from ear to ear. Whether the underpushed high flyer was deliberately going off script through frustrations about his direction, or simply found the whole thing hilarious, is unknown, but whatever the case, his dental display got him the boot shortly afterwards. Talk about a kick in the teeth. You see what I did there. Number 11, Abraham Washington. One thing Vince McMahon claims to absolutely hate is sycophants. One amazing Vince anecdote, if true, recounts how the newest member to Stephanie's writing team, former 90210 pen Larry Mollin, had to be pulled aside from a meeting due to excessive nodding. Apparently her father couldn't stand yes men, which might go some way to explaining his general distaste towards Daniel Bryan for so long. That's another joke. If there's one thing Vince hates even more than sycophants though, it's people who disagree with him. So you can imagine the mental gymnastics his employees must have to go through every day to stay in favour. Budding commentator cum manager Abraham Washington was one such superstar who found himself on the wrong side of the boss in 2012 when he made the seemingly smart choice to tweet in support of Linda McMahon's bid for the US Senate. Blatant toadying for sure, but still a wise move, right? Wrong. According to Washington, the tweet was directly responsible for WWE giving him his P45, as the company had been specifically trying to distance themselves from Linda's political aspirations. His other tweet, making light of Kobe Bryant's 2003 sexual assault case at the expense of Titus ONeil, probably had something to do with it too. Maybe. Who knows? Number 10, Daniel Bryan. You know what Daniel Bryan did in 2012 to raise the ire of Vinnie Mac? He wore the wrong gear. And as you can't see me, that wrong is in inverted commas. This is a strange one because more or less wrestlers can wear whatever they want to the ring with little consequence. CM Punk regularly shouted out performers from the past with the designs on his trunks, and no matter what era you choose to watch, you'll find someone wearing something that looks like a mistake. Attire is important, but largely in the hands of whoever is putting it on. Bryan wasn't so fortunate. Happening at Money in the Bank, Daniel decided to go with a new edgy anarchy-themed look for the show to tie into his character's attitude, and was immediately told to take it off by Vince through a ref who was at ringside. It could have been because McMahon didn't think it worked, or that it looked like someone had thrown up blood all over his clothes, but that was it for Bryan's darker colour palette. We never saw it again. Number 9, Zack Ryder. The Zack Ryder debacle will be something we talk about for a long time. Taking it on his own shoulders to drum up some momentum, he went on YouTube and created the Z True Long Island story and successfully got himself over, which was a little bit ironic given he took the mick out of trying to do that pretty much every week. It struck a chord though, with Ryder's passion especially shining through. As he was just being himself, he was very easy to like and get behind. You know, what a babyface should be in pro wrestling. So he grabbed the brass ring and in doing so had arenas around the USA chanting his name and demanding he was used on the show. His time had come, even though it hadn't. All we really got was a bizarre friendship angle with John Cena where the man who can't be seen stole his girlfriend and then Kane tried to kill him. It wasn't exactly the treatment you'd expect of someone that was actually in line for a push, and that could be because Vince McMahon didn't want that to be Zack's path, so squashed his 15 minutes flat. It's a shame really, as even if this had petered out eventually, we probably could have had some real fun with it and had some lovely memories today. But nope, we're not allowed that. Number 8, Braun Strowman. Now this didn't hurt Braun Strowman at all, clearly. The monster among men continues to be a pivotal part of Raw, and his improvement has been nothing short of wonderful. He has made it, and his size should mean he stays around for a long time. Even he, though, is not exempt from a Vince McMahon tongue lashing. As crazy as it may sound, there are some words that the boss doesn't like. It's why a performer never says hospital, wrestlers don't go there, they head to a local medical facility. This is true for the word shot as well, or in the context of I want a title shot. So when Strowman did demand a title shot, he was told in no uncertain terms that kind of language will not be tolerated, and in the future, he should ask for a title match. Because of course. The best bit is McMahon will change his mind on what words he does and doesn't like, which must be a nightmare for the WWE locker room, even more so when you're trying to learn scripts and keep your own bed in order. Number 7, Titus ONeil. We all remember this, and even today, I still don't know if I understand any of it. It was really weird. That's my main takeaway. But when Daniel Bryan gave his very moving retirement speech back in 2016 and the entire roster came to the ring to wish him well, Titus thought he'd be somewhat of a gentleman. Seeing that Stephanie was behind the chairman, he held Vince back to allow her to pass. The CEO did not appreciate being touched though, noticeably reacting on camera before deciding that ONeil should be suspended. At one point as well, he was going to fire the man until Triple H and Joey Mercury talked him out of it. Titus has even come out and said that he doesn't get any of it either, and I don't blame him. It's not like he rugby tackled the guy on live TV. This is why sometimes it's just best to smile and nod, people. You never know. Number 6, Triple H. Seemingly happening around the mid-2000s, it's best not to beat around the bush with this one. In short, Vince McMahon was furious with Triple H because the game and Stephanie McMahon beat him and wife Linda in a game of pool. Yep, that's it. On the one hand, I get it. It's quite clear that Vince is unbelievably competitive, and it's that spirit that's got him to where he is today. On the other hand, the thought of McMahon storming out a room because he lost to his daughter and son-in-law or anything is kind of amusing. And according to Triple H itself, it was the funniest thing. Goes to show though, if you are that amped up about everything and you can focus the fallout into something positive, the world really is your oyster. Number 5, Bret Hart. The feud between Bret Hart and brother Owen is legendary today, resulting in some of the best matches we've ever seen in the WWE and some captivating character work that felt real. It was a story we could all understand. The younger sibling trying to step out of Big Brother's shadow. And when I say that we could all understand it, I don't include Vince McMahon in that. According to Bret, Vince didn't get the concept when it was first pitched to him because brothers don't fight. How anyone could think that I don't know, especially because years later the boss would consider doing an incest angle between his own children. So siblings may not scrap, but they will think about having sex with each other. Right you are. Thankfully McMahon was eventually talked into this and the rest is history. Just imagine being the hitman and having to hear that though. He must have thought he'd gone mad. Number 4, Test and Christian. I really like the Un-Americans. I don't know why, especially as the gimmick is as shallow as they come, but I would guess it had something to do with the individuals that made up the group. Christian, Test and Lance Storm were awesome, and in many ways underutilized. The whole thing hit a massive roadblock, however, when the Office asked Christian and Test to cut their hair, and they refused. Now, given they did indeed both go on to cut their hair, I'm not entirely sure why the change took so long, but dismissing this would prove to be their downfall as it attracted the wrath of one Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Maybe it was because they knew the gimmick wasn't long for this world and didn't want to change their whole look to be a part of a stable that wasn't going to last, but it killed off whatever this was meant to be and potentially even had greater consequences too, given that, well, number 3, Christian again. Following on from what I was just saying, the fallout was that McMahon pitched the idea of having a blue dot cover Christian's face whenever he was on TV, and yes, I said that out loud. For some reason, Vinny Boy just didn't like Christian's face. I don't know why. It's a fine face, but to McMahon he thought it was ratty and that it was a face that bothered him. That's information I don't know what to do with, but at least it can be shared between us. To counter this, as mentioned, a blue dot would simply be placed over Christian's mug constantly, as if to let the world know what McMahon was thinking. Thankfully this didn't ever happen, although Captain Charisma did go and try his luck over in TNA shortly afterwards. I wonder why. Number 2, Daniel Bryan again. This one is a doozy. Most of us love Daniel Bryan because he's just so hard to hate. A good egg all round, it really does seem that he has a strong moral code that won't be broken regardless of what that may mean. I respect that. Amazingly, the biggest bugbear when it came to Vince McMahon and his opinion of the American Dragon when he first came to WWE was that he doesn't eat meat. Yep, happening after Chris Jericho had gone to the boss following a match with Bryan to sing his praises, that was his sole takeaway. How he knew Daniel was a vegetarian to begin with is beyond me, but it just goes to show, you never know what will hold you back in this crazy life. Also, what difference does not eating meat make when it comes to being a pro wrestler? beyond me. Number 1, Chris Jericho. Now you may be thinking, given what I just told you about Jericho, that it all ties in. Vince being mad at Y2J for coming to him trying to put other guys over. But no, that wasn't it. Instead, Vinnie Mac's problem when it came to the eye title of Rock and Roller was that he wore a scarf. Once again, I'm dumbfounded. Apparently seeing it as too feminine, which makes it even more ridiculous, it's why Alberto Del Rio started wearing one during his own mega heel push. Jericho suggested it to Vince, seeing as he was so enraged by his own choice of clothes. The problem here is that most people don't give two shits about a scarf, so it was just a dude wearing a scarf. That's not going to get him much heat, just made you think he was cold. Chris himself revisited this on one of his later WWE runs, where not only did he add a scarf to his gimmick, but he got it over too.